Hey everyone, it's Kyle from Kool Collectibles back again for another Hot Toys review. This time the new Golden Age Captain America from the Winter Soldier. Hot on the heels of the Light Armor Thor exclusive that I got the other day. So just give you guys a quick look at the packaging. The box art is pretty nice, and I probably would have preferred the figure to have that sort of head sculpt, to be honest, but we'll get on that in a second. So that's the front and the back, and the sort of standard Marvel type of insert that they include, similar to the Spider-Man figures. So there's a picture of the figure there, and the head sculpt doesn't look too bad in that photo. And you just get the standard clamshell. So I've got him set up behind me, and I'll be back with you guys in a sec. Alright, and there he is, and I'll just quickly go through the accessories before I get back onto the figure itself. So probably the best thing that you get is the battle damage shield, which they say is made of die cast, which I assume is, I don't know, it feels pretty light. I probably couldn't even tell if it was plastic or not, but the finish is pretty good, and hopefully this one doesn't have the same sort of paint flaking that the plastic ones have. I'm handling it not too particularly carefully, but it seems to be holding up alright so far. And you get the fake sort of leather straps, and so this side here you can see that there is a clasp that you undo, and the instructions tell you to slip his hand through there, and then clasp it back, and his forearm goes through there, so you get the I guess him holding the shield up against his forearm, which is probably the way I'll have him displayed. So there's the shield there, so that's pretty nice. You get the array of hands again, so the usual splayed hands, and the sculpting again is pretty good, and the paint app's pretty good too. So you get those, you get the relaxed hands, so you get the nice sort of leather effect, and these are the two hands for holding the strap, and the left, and you get his optional pointing hand. Hulk smash. This time they've included the standard black stand, which is pretty cool. And this thing is, you slip that into the back of him. I think it's in here somewhere. I'll have to check the instructions, but you slip that through there, and then you can put the straps of the shield through the other part of the S-bend and have it sitting on his back, which is a pretty nice touch. And you get the instruction book. So onto the figure. I guess the controversy around the head sculpt, I actually don't mind it at all. In hand it actually looks pretty good, and it's I guess similar to the Thor, where in certain lighting conditions, if you've got bright light flashing in his face, you can really see the teeth stand out. So I'll see if I can get right up close. But apart from that, and in most sort of positions, I think he looks pretty natural, and for me I think it's actually got a pretty good likeness to the way he looked in the movie. I've compared it against screenshots from the movie, and yeah, I mean, Chris Evans, when you put that helmet on, and he does look slightly different, I guess, and I think it's pretty good, and I like the etching this time. I passed on the first Avenger version because they had so many reports of crooked A's on the damn helmet, but this time they've molded it on, so you can sort of see it sticking out a little bit from the helmet there. So no issues there, and the paint app on the skin is pretty good too. So while we're on the head and the neck area, I think this is probably the one figure that's got the best neck articulation I've seen. You can independently rotate the head, but just takes a little bit of effort. But the neck itself gives him all sorts of range of motion. So that's something I'm not really used to on a Hot Toys figure, to be honest. So you can get him looking quite a lot up in the sky and so on, or looking down in that sort of museum type pose. So overall, pretty happy with the neck. And onto the suit. I guess people were complaining about, why did they release this figure when they had the first Avenger? Well, Marvel designed the suit for the movie, so they're just trying to replicate that. And I prefer the suit design of this one to the first Avenger, mainly because of the additional red stripe. I think that makes a huge difference to the way he looks. And I guess for me, Captain America always had, those 3 stripes at the front. And I like that my star is pretty symmetrical. And the outfit, I was talking about the Thor figure the other day, and how it has so much detail and so many layers. And this one's just as detailed, I think, but with more fabric, of course. Just with you get the metal buttons, the metal sort of clasp there, the belt buckles. So this is all fabric, and I guess the biggest change they've made from the first Avenger is this is all some sort of rubbery type material. It's not quite the same as the Superman suit, I don't think, but it gives him quite a bigger wide range of motion. And people have spoken about some issues with the underarms, but my suit seems okay with no sort of stretching or tearing or anything like that. And I was actually surprised that you feel here, and there is a bit of give there, apart from this fat shoulder here. So I'm not sure what that is, because I find it quite difficult to rotate the arms forward. Backwards seems okay, but forwards is a bit of a pain. So I'm not going to try and force that too much. People were complaining that he looks a bit too bulky, and I initially agreed with that, but I looked at some of the photos on the web from the movie, and he pretty much looks like that. And I think it's a pretty good representation of the character from the Winter Soldier. And I love that metal clasp at the back there. So from that and to the front, and I love the little star there. Everything from the torso up is pretty damn good, I think. Lots of, I think he's double jointed elbows, and the rotation and so on, and the moulding on the gauntlets and the gloves is all pretty good. So I think the biggest improvement is probably the range of motion that he can do with the arms, over and above the first Avenger. Now he does have a lot of restriction in the torso. I can't really get a lot of ab crunch or swivel in that, and I'm not going to try and force it. So they must have some sort of undersuit or something in there, because it feels very, very rigid there. Now onto the belt, which is probably the biggest complaint of mine. My OCD is probably kicking in, because I like to have things symmetric, and for this one the belt buckle is just not sitting straight for me, and I realized that was because the belt is actually held in place by 2 clasps, one here and one on that side, and it sort of holds in place by the clasp there. So that's how you close it up. So there's a clasp on the pants here and here that the belt attaches to, and because it seems like those clasps weren't sewn onto the pants perfectly symmetric, so this one here sits forward a little bit and that one sits to the back, and so the belt is rotated. So even if I try to rotate the pants, it might straighten the belt buckle, but then this sort of zip area would not be centered. So I've tried sort of futzing around and moving it, so you can sort of adjust it a little bit, but because it's held in place by those clasps, you let go and it just sort of gradually works its way back. So that's probably my biggest complaint. The rest of the suit, the pants and the the stitching on the pants is, I think, is really good. Well, there's an indication of how unsymmetrical the belt is, but the pants and the suit looks pretty damn good, so that's why the belt is so disappointing for me, because everything else looks pretty perfect. But yeah, back onto the pants and the stitching and so on, it is really nice. I think the material feels really nice. It probably doesn't have the different sort of textures and so on that the Thor figure had, but the tailoring I think is really good, and the fit is pretty good. The initial photo sort of had his legs looking a little too long, but in hand I think it looks pretty damn proportional. And they're just tucked inside the boots here, which are nicely molded. There's not much ankle articulation because they are molded pieces and not separate lower shin and ankle components. But the lacing is molded pretty nicely. Not much weathering, which I guess is a bit disappointing. But overall they look pretty nice. And the sort of fake buckles and so on there. So overall, I think I'd probably give this figure maybe a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. Overall, I'm finally glad to have a Captain America in the collection, and I do love this particular suit and not the Avengers version. But yeah, that belt is probably the one thing that annoys the crap out of me, and really sort of gives me a bad feeling about the figure, when overall it is pretty damn good. So I'll probably get over that fairly quickly and I'll pose him up and upload some pictures onto the website and the Facebook page. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. I've probably got a few things coming up over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.